Alrighty, welcome. My name is George Giles. Will be an interview for Dr. Magu class. Instead of doing a presentation style where a voiceover over my slides, I did a slide to do an interview style where I would be teaching Darius a little bit. I was teaching my brother a little bit of what Thomas Hobbes had to say in his social contract. To transition into the lesson today, we will be talking about Thomas Hobbes and his impact on philosophy and how he has impacted how humans interact with one another through government, but not also through government, but with economic and social standpoints as well. First and foremost, Thomas Hobbes. He was born in 1588. He's a famous philosopher from the United Kingdom. Thomas Hobbes is such a respected writer because of his book, The Leviathan. In The Leviathan, he details several aspects of human nature and how it coincides with societal needs and wants. Hobbes was a big believer in the scientific method, making a new science of politics. Around his time, many people did not study the social outcomes of their actions. So through their actions, they would just proceed how we would do, or what we would call as human nature, and fight wars, hunt and gather, just do things that weren't civilized. And he defined those things as what we like to call the man in the abstract. The man in the abstract is referring to the idea that we as humans demonstrate and act the ways we want to do based off the laws of nature. Hobbes was a realist, thinking that all human beings can be trained or acted to live and act a certain way. Hobbes attempted to dismantle the hierarchy world rules by religion. Hobbes aimed to dismantle the hierarchy rules put on this world due to religion in hopes that people would see the physicalities of life. This is one of my famous quotes that I do like from Thomas Hobbes. In the grand structure of his thesis, he coincides with the idea that the universe is a whole mass, but as one universe, there are depth, length, and width that we as humans had to adhere to, and that is our natural state. Also, he goes into a little bit more detail with the quote saying that majority of humans act on their nature, and since they are one with the universe, it is almost an instinct, if that makes any sense to you. An instinct to do what you want, or to do what nature is proposed based off of your environment, based off of social needs, based off of finance. In the Leviathan, Hobbes defines fundamental attributes. In the Leviathan, Hobbes defines fundamental attributes of human beings by discussing the needs and wants for things in the nature. Hobbes describes that humans have an appetite for something, they will move toward it, and vice versa. If they want to avoid it, they will move away. He defined these words as aversion and also desires and appetite for wants and needs in society. These desires are what essentially the driving force of human nature. Hobbes does further his argument by explaining that humans are driven by passion, but have the ability to reason. This is important when talking about Hobbes' theory because any person can want anything, but when applied to nature, Hobbes defines these wants as the principle of self-preservation. In human nature, there's a place for a reason. Hobbes transitions his argument into how morals dictate human behavior, finishing the statement where humans describe things as good or evil depending on how it benefits them. In the Leviathan, that is such a huge impact on how we govern people. To be in good governance, or to govern people the right way, you have to give some and you have to take some. The thing is what Thomas Hobbes portrays in the Leviathan is that as a government, you have to take some of the natural laws, or take some of the natural rights away from the people. In conclusion, the people will get safety. They will get food. They would have a higher power telling them what to do and how to do things. So, in the grand eyes of how we humans describe things, good or evil, depending on how it benefits us, if you think of how the government uses government assistance to keep people at a certain financial level, but the people at a certain financial level need the help from the government, so they're giving away their individual rights for just a little bit of help through societal's eyes. Hobbes later describes what he believes hypothetical state of nature is. To revert back, he states that it is a state of war and fighting in like a hunter-gatherer society. I do have a question that I would like you to answer. How Hobbes explained that some people need to have their natural laws taken away from them for protection or anything, how would the world work without a uniform government? If I could ask you that, how would you think the world would work without a uniform government?
I just feel like people would learn how, if people would learn how to coexist, there would be no need for a government. And what I mean by that is people just staying out of the way, doing their own little thing. As he says in the Leviathan, he has a fine line you want to walk between society and power. If you feel like you have your own power to do what you believe is a society for you, then you can do it freely. No government should be able to govern that. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
In terms of that, so.
I'm actually glad you said that, because the next statement from Hobbes is that Hobbes claims that there were fundamental rights given to each and every human being, and that there's also fundamental equality between all people. So, imagine a government splitting you between races. Now you have certain people getting their needs that they need because they are a certain race, and you have people not getting the needs because they're a certain race. At what point do the people gather together and say we're all equal and try to do the right thing or provide for all? And that's one of the many things that Hobbes really, really went into detail on, is how we do what is best for us. Right. At all moments and all times. Humans will do what it takes to survive at all moments and all times. Hobbes further explains that people will compete without a uniform law.
For sure.
Then he goes on and states that that presence of nature, our environment, where we were raised, how we were raised, anything, creates insecurities within human society. He then details that the natural laws do not dictate what humans do if a society or a government is in place, because they have to give up some of their natural rights to participate in that sense of society. He does have a great a great example of intellectual influences like this. Mr. Hobbes did not he did not like religious movements or religious authority. He admired the scientific method, and during his time as a philosopher or a political scientist throughout, he got a lot of backlash from turning away from the church. The scientific method was gradually growing in the prominence that he lived in. Hobbes despised the scholastic philosophy that defended religion and preferred geometry in its place. The combination of math and science produced justifiable results, unlike the deistic counterpart. So what Hobbes is trying to say is that through life, rather than looking up to the sky and saying, "Oh Lord, please give me food," and that food magically falling out of the sky, he wants you to partake in your human and natural law, but not only that, adhere to the society that you're in, so maybe you can grow. These things also trickle down into how we govern today. Many people are willing to exchange their freedom for safety. Liberty is rated too highly in the traditional context. If a war was pitting a man against each other, a role sacrificing freedom would be rational. What I mean by that is that not many are willing to put down their life for another. It's hard to sacrifice freedom for something that is very unknown. However, if you transfer these liberties to the government and allow a head figure to take place, you will feel much safer. And I say you feel much safer in quotation marks because it gives you the idea that nature does not work no more. That you will not have to go out here and fight for your right to live, fight to eat, drink, go to school, anything when it's given to you. Some of the examples that I would like to point out is how after 9/11, we as Americans, we sacrificed our rights and our international laws of travel, and we gave them to the TSA to check and do all of our bags just to make sure we are good as a uniformed people. After 9/11, obviously, our government took the 4 standpoints and all the safety measures to make sure that that attack would never happen again. But through those processes, we as American citizens lost a bunch of rights. This is one of the ways that we give our rights to the government to protect from ourselves. Also, COVID-19. This is a negative way I would say that the government has, or that the head figure in the government kind of dictates the natural law of things, is that they forced a shutdown. Schools were closed, all jobs were closed, and they did a face mask mandate, which it outright just goes against our constitutional rights. As well as they try to inclinate majority of our population to get them away from COVID-19. Forcing a shot on people, lack of human rights, it definitely, it kind of goes between the lines of what's best for people and also kind of using their human rights against them. However, mandating it and making it required for travel or for school or for work, I think that's one of the ways that the government takes our rights from us in a negative way and dictates their own agenda. The balance between liberty and security is tricky. Governments and citizens must ask themselves, what are they willing to do to protect themselves against external and internal attacks? After 9/11, the government established the Department of Homeland Security, which may have undermined the freedoms to enhance mass safety. In the Leviathan, Hobbes goes over, in the first couple chapters, what it means to be human. Throughout his thesis, he breaks it down more and more. And honestly, from reading the Leviathan, I think that being human is having an all-nature environment around you where laws apply to your food, apply to your ways that you're thinking to grow, rather than giving those freedoms up and giving it to a mass majority of people or a government to dictate how you think. I think Hobbes did a great job of using the scientific method to ensure that his ideas would stick. Not only that, but he concluded that political science and social sciences can help us benefit in the future. All right, thank you.